Let's start with what was going on in Twin Peaks. The opening of the episode presented us with Jerry lost in the woods. The thing that stuck out to me in this scene was that Jerry didn't know if he was high. And I think this is something that Jerry's usually aware of. I know he's a bit absent-minded, kind of a goofball, but he knows when he's high. So I am wondering if something occurred, perhaps something with the Black Lodge. But then as far as if the Black Lodge is involved, when we look at where he is and the images we get, it seems kind of very happy and peaceful. There doesn't seem to be any threat to Jerry, but I do think it's worth noting that Jerry was lost in woods that he should be familiar with. More significantly, that he didn't know if he was high. We also get to see what Hawk found in the bathroom door, which were the missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary. Now, there were 4 pages missing, so there is still a missing page. 2 pages that we see Hawk and Frank focus on are both mentioned in Fire Walk With Me. In Fire Walk With Me, Laura does realize that it's Leland coming into her bedroom at night and not Bob. The other scene we see in Fire Walk With Me is a bloody Annie in Laura's bed. And Annie repeats to Laura what Laura writes in her diary about the good Dale being stuck in the lodge. One of the things we need to keep in mind while watching Twin Peaks that was really accented in Fire Walk With Me and not so much in the first 2 seasons is that both time and space are bendable in Twin Peaks. When Annie appears in Laura's bed and gives her this message, it's Annie coming back in time, coming to Laura before Laura was insulted, before Cooper even visited Twin Peaks, before Annie was assaulted. Now, Frank and Hawk are left with a lot of questions after they read these 2 pages, but they do come to the conclusion that the good Dale did not come out of the lodge. So they're at a point where they're still not really certain what is going on, but they have come to realize that the Cooper that came out of the lodge and then eventually left town isn't the good Dale, isn't the real Cooper. Frank decides to call Harry to try to get some more information from Harry. Harry's really not doing well, so he's not able to get much information from him. And then he does call Doc Hayward and Skypes with Doc Hayward. We get some pretty decent information, this time information on Audrey Horn. Now, when we last saw Audrey in Twin Peaks, it was in the series finale, and we see Audrey is in the bank when the bank blows up, and we are left to wonder what happened to Audrey. So Doc Hayward confirms that Audrey survived the explosion in the bank. He also lets us know that she wound up in a coma and that he saw Doppelganger Cooper leaving intensive care, and he believed he was visiting Audrey. Dr. Hayward also mentions that when Doppelganger Cooper was leaving the hospital, he saw that strange face again. He indicates Cooper was acting mighty strange. We see Andy questioning a man who owns the truck that hit the young boy in episode 6. Now, this man is very nervous that someone's going to see Andy at the house and lets Andy know, I'll tell you everything you want to know, but I need to meet you later because I don't want you to be seen here. So Andy leaves. They make plans to meet at 4:30. Later on, we see Andy is waiting and waiting, and the guy never showed up. We go back to his home, and things don't look good. We see the doors cracked open. We get some spooky music. It seems like there wasn't a good end for him. Perhaps whoever he's afraid of already knows that he was talking to Andy and has had enough of him. We do get one more mention to this man, I believe. At the very end of the episode, someone pops into the R&R and says, has anybody seen Billy? My bet is this man that Andy was questioning is Billy, and he is now missing. We get a scene with Ben and his assistant Beverly. Beverly's a new character. The scene starts out with Beverly trying to track down a noise in her office. Now, if you notice, this noise is the same exact noise we heard when Red did his dime trick. She says that the noise started about a week and a half ago. In episode 6, Red indicated he's been in Twin Peaks for the past couple weeks. So that timing it does about line up. It's not exact. That's close enough. And it is the same exact noise by all means. They can't trace where the noise comes from. Every time they move in the room, it seems like the noise is coming from another place. We do see the camera zoom in on the corner of the room at the end of the scene, kind of hinting that this is where the origin of the noise is coming from, but I'm not really sure what that means beyond that. Beverly leaves and goes home, and we see she has a sickly husband. There's a lot of tension there. He's a bit jealous because she's coming home late from work, and he wants to know what she's been up to. The most interesting part of the scene is her very last line, because she seems to jump to a different topic. At first, she's talking about she was at work. She had things to do. She needs to be at work to make money, and she's grateful to have the job that she has. But then there seems to be this switch in her whole persona, and she ends it with, "Don't fuck this up for me." This leads me to believe that Beverly has a plan, some intentions that we're not aware of, and that Ben is not aware of. And the last thing we get from Twin Peaks is the Bang Bang Bar. We get a long scene of them sweeping something up from the floor. Now, this is a great example of Twin Peaks, and when you never know if something has a greater meaning or is just trying to give us a feeling. Sweeping up at the Bang Bang Bar makes a lot of sense. A lot of dirty stuff has gone down there over the years. It's a dirty place that needs to be cleaned. So in this, that sweeping makes sense to me. Now, I was trying to figure out what he was sweeping, and it's really difficult to see exactly what he's sweeping up. We may see the beginning of this, what made the mess. It may be an odd substance. So there may be a lot to that we don't know yet. But another really interesting thing we got during this scene was Renault on the phone. And he's talking about two 15-year-old blondes that somebody owes them for. We don't get any type of indication as to who these two girls could be or if they matter. In Buckhorn, we see that Lieutenant Knox is visiting Candace and Detective Mackley to investigate the hit on General Briggs's fingerprints. So we officially have confirmed that the body in the bed with Ruth Davenport was Major Garland Briggs. Lieutenant Knox immediately calls Colonel Davis to report that there is a body and that the head is missing. Both Colonel Davis and Lieutenant Knox are confused because the body should be about 70 years old. That's how old Garland Briggs would be in the current day. But the body is that of a 40 or 50-year-old man. So they find this very confusing, and they obviously find it confusing that his head is missing. Now, in all likelihood, Garland Briggs's body has been in some type of cryogenic process, frozen so that it would not age. And in all likelihood, that is where his head still is. Agent Garland Briggs was a brilliant man and had a lot of information about the Blue Rose investigation. It would be very advantageous for somebody to have this man's head mined at their disposal. And I believe that's what's going on here. Somebody has Garland Briggs's mind in some laboratory somewhere, and whether he can actually still talk or whether they're just reading his mind through some kind of computer in a singularity type situation, there is more to come about Major Garland Briggs's head. It is not just something that's going to be marked missing. And the other thing we see in this scene is the man from the first episode who is all in black. He is a creepy looking guy. The last time we saw him is in the jail a few cells down from William Hastings. And in that scene, we see him just vanish. In this scene, he's just walking down the hall. He does creep Lieutenant Knox out, and then he passes by the doorway. Nobody notices him. But we do notice that the sound of the Black Lodge is in this scene as he is walking by. So we can assume that this man is connected to the Black Lodge. One of my favorite scenes in this episode was with Cole and Albert. When Albert reports that he made no progress with Diane and lets Cole know that it's his turn to go question her now. And what I really loved about this scene is we saw a lot of vulnerability in both Albert and Cole. And we usually never see any of this. They're usually just very logically detective-like people. So to see them both dreading, first of all, to see Diane, they're both afraid of her. And the whole exchange with, say, please, I didn't hear you. Yes, you did hear me. It was really fantastic. I really feel like it elevated these characters to a whole new level that we've never seen them in. And it was just great. I loved it. Then they do visit Diane. We see that there's a young man in Diane's apartment with her. And we see that Diane is fairly abrasive. She does not want to be involved with the FBI. It does not take us long to see where a lot of this abrasiveness is coming from in Diane. We get our answer when she sits down with Doppelganger Cooper. Before that happens, they are on the plane. There's a couple things to take note of. Tammy finally presents Cooper's fingerprints to Albert and Cole. And they go into detail about how Doppelganger Cooper's fingerprints are reversed. So this makes a lot of sense. He is the evil Cooper versus the good Cooper, so his fingerprints are reversed. This leads Cole to telling her she's doing a great job, and he does this thing with her fingers where he points to her left ring finger and lets her know that that is her spiritual mound. Now, the left ring finger is really significant in Twin Peaks. The ring that we have seen in the Black Lodge, this ring is worn on that finger. And the pattern that we've seen is that victims of the Black Lodge basically are given the ring before they become victims. So it is significant that Cole pointed out that finger to Tammy. And if we remember back to the previous episode, when we met Red, one of the things Red did was stick out his left hand and ask Richard if he's ever studied his hand. So, you know, we're getting multiple references to the left hand in this show. The other interesting note on the plane was they show Tammy the last photo of Doppelganger Cooper. While they're talking about this, we see Diane's face, and it's almost like her worst fears are being confirmed about Doppelganger Cooper. Like she almost knew what he was up to. There was something there. Diane knows more than we know, which we again get confirmed in a minute. Diane goes in and sits down with Doppelganger Cooper. Now, I want to point out something that just hit me in this episode, which is we have seen Doppelganger Cooper in a glass box. A glass box was in the first two parts of Twin Peaks. It was a significant piece of those two episodes, and here we have Doppelganger Cooper in a glass box. So I definitely think we need to connect these two glass boxes. Doppelganger Cooper announces that, lets Diane know that he knew it was her coming. And this is not the first time Doppelganger Cooper has predicted what is coming in the future. We saw him in the jail in a previous episode predict the guard bringing him food before there was any sight of the guard. As far as the conversation between Doppelganger and Diane, it all came down to the last time they saw each other. And Diane was very stressed out over this. She insisted, tell me the last time we saw each other. And then she goes on to say she'll never forget the last time they saw each other. And Doppelganger Cooper also agrees that he's never going to forget the last time they saw each other. And then Diane exclaims, "Who are you?" She demands that he look at her, and she wants to know who he is. Cooper has no problem looking at her. Doppelganger Cooper really has no problem with anything. He's pretty badass. Diane then lets Cole know outside that that is not Cooper. That's the one thing she can tell for sure. She says this has nothing to do with his physical appearance or time passing, but it's something in here that's not Cooper. Cole does ask her, what was that bit about the last meeting you two had? And Diane says, I'll let you know some other time. Doppelganger Cooper definitely in some way assaulted Diane. There's fear in Diane when she's dealing with this Doppelganger Cooper. After the visit, Doppelganger Cooper lets a guard know he wants a meeting with the warden. Doppelganger does get the meeting. Warden is not messing around. As soon as they're alone, he pulls out a gun on Doppelganger. But again, no reaction in Doppelganger Cooper. He is always in control. And he immediately brings up the dog leg that we saw as evidence that was taken from his car and lets the warden know that the dog had 4 legs, and the 3 other legs are with the information he's thinking about right now being sent to people that the warden doesn't want coming around. The warden is taken back by the threat and again by the amount of information Doppelganger Cooper has. He actually questions whether Doppelganger Cooper knows what he's really talking about, and that's when Doppelganger brings up Joel McCluskey. As soon as he drops this name, the warden's complete attitude changes, and he basically is ready to cooperate with him. Cooper tells him he wants a car, a gun, and Ray Monroe, and he assures the warden that he really doesn't have any problem with him, and that if the warden just gives him what he wants, he'll never see Doppelganger Cooper again, and no one will ever hear of Joel McCluskey or the late Mr. Strawberry again. So we do learn that this Mr. Strawberry that he keeps referring to is a dead man, which is why in the previous episode, Doppelganger Cooper said, oh, Mr. Strawberry is not taking any calls at this time. That night, they execute the plan. The warden lets Ray and Doppelganger out. They walk him straight out to the parking lot, tell him the keys are in the car, and that's the end of that. Last bit of note is Doppelganger said, I want a friend, meaning a gun, in the glove compartment. And before they get in the car, he tells Ray, you drive. We already saw Doppelganger kill Daria, and Daria and Ray were working together and planning on killing Doppelganger Cooper. So it seems that he's going to finish this job and kill Ray. We first see Dougie in his office, and Tony's there. Tony's questioning him, why won't you talk to me? And Tony's very nervous. Tony has obviously committed quite a few illegal things with his insurance job, and he is extremely nervous because Dougie called him a liar, and then Dougie had the meeting with his boss, Mr. Mullins. As a matter of fact, as soon as Tony hears the police are here, he splits right out of the room. Another interesting part of this scene is we see Dougie, and he's still sketching on the papers, ladders and stairs. But if you notice this time, he actually falls right off the paper. He's literally writing on his desk. He's mimicking what he did before, but he's not receiving the help from the Black Lodge like he did before. So as before, what seemed like nonsense actually added up to something. This time, he's truly just doing nonsense. He's not getting help from the Black Lodge, and he's not doing anything that makes any type of sense. He's just mimicking, and this is all we've really seen Dougie do. That's 90% of his replies and communications with people is just mimicking what they've already said to him. So then the detectives come in to investigate about his missing car, and it was really funny seeing these three guys were hysterical, and even more funny is their names. All three of these guys are Detective Fusco. So, you know, whatever, but that was kind of funny. Janie E comes in. Janie E, she kicks ass. She doesn't take anything from anybody. Puts the detectives in their place, and her and Dougie leave. So Dougie and Janie E leave, and Ike the Spike makes his attack. Dougie reacts, as one woman puts it, like a cobra. It's totally badass. He completely eliminates the threat. Now, as he's eliminating the threat, the arm pops up from the sidewalk and starts telling Dougie to squeeze his hand off. Now, it's his right hand, it's not his left hand, and that's significant. Now, we notice Dougie does not pay any attention to the arm. The arm is telling him to squeeze his hand off, but yet Dougie continually tries to tear his thumb away so he can just take the gun away from him. He eventually does so by giving him a second karate chop to the throat as Jane is choking him and beating on Ike the Spike. The whole scene's really great, and Ike the Spike runs away. We do hear a little girl claim that Ike the Spike smelled funny. I think this is a point of note. I don't think this is a girl noticing a guy who had body odor. And then we see the gun laying on the ground and them lifting a very gross something. It almost seems like something dried up, or I don't know, off of the handle. When we first see the gun removed from Ike the Spike's hand, it's the opposite side of the handle and there's nothing there. So not sure where this thing came from. Point of note before we move on is there's a couple references to the one-armed man in this episode. If we look at Mr. Mullins in the office, he never takes his left hand out of his pocket. And even if you look at the way he moves, his movements, rather than being smooth and normal, they're more like the herky-jerky stuff that we get from the one-armed man in the Black Lodge. And again, after this scene happens and people start to gather around, we see a man come from the background, and his arm, his left arm, is tucked in. A lot of the time his coat is just hiding it, but again, it's this reference to the one-armed man. So we had two different references to the one-armed man, and then we actually saw the arm while this all happened. I think all this is really saying is the one-armed man is looking out for Dougie. So I'm very happy I'm finally caught up on Twin Peaks. I will now be releasing videos just a couple days after they premiere on Sunday. They are going to take a week off because of the 4th of July weekend, and I'm going to release 1 or 2 videos during that time period with some theories. I haven't gotten into too many of my theories yet. I'm trying to stick to what I really know in these videos. But with this time off, where I'm going to have some fun, we'll see if we can't start connecting some of these dots that we're getting all over the place. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't be afraid to go ahead and give it a like. If you want to make sure that you are aware of all of the Twin Peaks videos that I post, go ahead, subscribe, and ding the bell. You will be notified every time I post a Twin Peaks video. If you know anybody else who likes Twin Peaks, go ahead and share the video. It will give you something to talk about. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.